Hey everybody, it's low carb and keto friendly nutritionist Amy Berger here from 2itnutrition.com, bringing you another video in doing keto without the crazy. Before we get into today's topic, just a quick reminder that I have an ebook out called The Stall Slayer. You can catch that at stallslayer.com. I'll put a link below for your convenience. It is about breaking fat loss stalls on ketogenic or low carb diets. So if you have been doing a ketogenic diet and you think you're doing everything right and this stubborn body fat will not budge, do check out the Stall Slayer because your answer might be in there. If you already have the Stall Slayer, I've mentioned this in a previous video, please feel free to send me some feedback. Did you like the book? Was it fun to read? Did you learn something? Is it helping? Have you changed something about the way you're doing the diet and it's already working? You can contact me through stallslayer.com. There's a contact button, or I'll just put the link below. And what else? Did you know that I wrote a book about Alzheimer's disease? So as long as we're talking about my books, I will put in a little notification about that. It's called The Alzheimer's Antidote. You can find that at Amazon. Yes, I'm an alliteration girl. Stall Slayer, Alzheimer's Antidote. And if you're wondering why a ketogenic nutritionist would write anything about Alzheimer's disease, it's because they now regularly refer to Alzheimer's disease as type 3 diabetes or diabetes of the brain. You might also hear the phrase brain insulin resistance. So that's just a little teaser. Type 3 diabetes, so maybe keto has a role to play in that. If you want to know more, I'll put a link down below to the book on Amazon, The Alzheimer's Antidote. Okay, getting into today's topic. Now, this is kind of coming on the heels of some other videos I've done recently. I guess I'm on like a jag of why I don't like certain very commonly used phrases. The two I did in the past were my problems with the phrase just eat real food and my problem with fruits and vegetables. So I'll put links, but you can just look at the list of videos and you'll find those. They're pretty recent. And so today I'm going to talk about why I really don't like the phrase that's not keto. If you are active in any number of keto social media, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Instagram, wherever, you have no doubt come across people using this phrase, that's not keto. Heaven forbid you post a picture of your meal and it has something that somebody out there doesn't approve of, that's not keto. You can't have that on keto. Okay, first of all, who died and made you the keto police? I'm a grown adult. I get to choose what I put in my body. As my friend Casey from Go Keto with Casey says, nobody gets a vote on my plate. Nobody gets a vote on what I eat. Why don't you go police somebody else? I don't require your policing services, thank you very kindly. So, second, when you hear somebody say that's not keto, you will automatically know that they might not have the greatest, most solid understanding of how this works. And I say that because being ketogenic, being keto, is not a property of a food. Foods are not ketogenic. Your body is ketogenic. Your body, ketogenic, generating ketones. Your body is the thing that is ketogenic. Foods are not ketogenic. Now, there's maybe two little exceptions to that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. We'll stick a pin in that, and I stick that pin so I don't forget it. Now, are there certain foods that are more conducive to keeping your body in a ketogenic state, and foods that are probably not the best choices if you want to stay in a ketogenic state? Yes, of course. Of course. Here's the thing though. Being ketogenic, being keto, your body being in a ketogenic state it's not about what you're eating and not eating. It has to do with the physiologic, metabolic state of your body. And I talk about this all the time in my videos. Everybody's carbohydrate tolerance differs. Some of us really, really need to be strict. We need to be like 20 grams total or fewer. That's Dr. Westman's page 4 diet. You can link below if you want to check that out. Or it's like Atkins induction, very, very, very low carbohydrate. Some people have a much higher carb tolerance. They can have 40, 50, 60 grams of carbs and still be in ketosis. Some people can have even more. It just really depends on your individual body. And so depending on your carbohydrate tolerance, maybe you can have, I don't know, a peach or a plum and still be in ketosis. Maybe you can have half a cup of beans and still be in ketosis. Maybe you can't. So for somebody to look at somebody's salad and there's carrots on it and they say carrots aren't keto, you have no idea what that person's ketogenic threshold is. Dr. Westman jokes, bread is keto if you eat that much of it, right? Potato chips are ketogenic if you have one potato chip. So there's no such thing as a food being ketogenic or not being ketogenic. It's all about your carbohydrate tolerance and what your body is doing metabolically. If off the cuff, not thinking too deeply about this, if you just think about, well, what are ketogenic foods? You're gonna spout out immediately butter, cheese, coconut oil, broccoli, almonds, bacon, eggs, steak, salmon, whatever, chicken, fatty sources of protein, oils, creams, fats, very, very low carbohydrate vegetables. If somebody were to ask you what are some ketogenic foods, you would say that. And you're not wrong. Those are the foods I mentioned. Those are the foods that are more conducive to keeping you in a ketogenic state. If people would say, what's a food that's definitely not ketogenic? Bagels, pasta, rice, breakfast cereal coated in sugar. Yeah, but fat is not ketogenic by itself. But butter is not ketogenic. Again, your body is ketogenic. If you eat 3 bagels with butter, well, butter's ketogenic. Are you going to be in ketosis? No, because it's not the presence of the fat that gets you into a ketogenic state. It's the absence of the carbs. I have a whole chapter on this in Stall Slayer, because this is the number one mistake I see people making on keto. Well, it's number 2. Number 1 is just inadvertently overdoing carbs. Number 2 is thinking that you have to shoot for some totally arbitrary percentage of fat in your diet, some type of fat macro. So they deliberately add oils and creams and butters and fats to their meal, thinking that the more fat, the more keto. No, again, it's the absence of the carbs. So cheese is not ketogenic. If you have cheese and crackers, you're not going to be in ketosis, because it's not the presence of the cheese that puts you into ketosis. It's the absence of the crackers. Is cheese good for a ketogenic diet? Yeah. Is butter good for a ketogenic diet? Yeah. But by themselves, there's nothing about that food that puts you into a ketogenic state. The food is not ketogenic. So this phrase, that's not keto, has got to go, because there's no such thing as a keto food or a ketogenic food. There's only whether or not your body is generating ketones or not. Now, I remember I stuck the pin, because what I stuck the pin in is coconut products, specifically coconut oil, coconut butter, maybe even MCT oil, which usually is isolated from a coconut or a coconut oil. They just take the specific types of fats from it, or from palm kernel oil. And the reason I'm putting those into a different category is because, in a way, you could say those are ketogenic foods, because most of you are probably already aware, but if you're relatively new to this whole keto thing, coconut oil and palm kernel oil contain different types of fatty acids called medium chain fatty acids, more commonly called medium chain triglycerides, although medium chain fatty acid is really the technically correct term, but since everyone calls it MCTs, that's just what I'll do. So these fats are, and so now they also have MCT oil, which is not just whole coconut oil or whole palm kernel oil. They've isolated and extracted specific medium chain fats, very specific, chemical structure fats to put in the MCT oil for various reasons that, okay, I'll stick a pin in that. I'll do a whole separate video on MCT oil at some point. But coconut, these medium chain triglycerides are digested and processed differently in the body than other kinds of fats. They are more readily converted into ketones rather than being burned for fuel as the fats they are, or rather than even being stored as body fat. They're more apt to pass through the liver and be converted into ketones, to the point where even if you're on a high carb diet, even if you're not on a low carb or ketogenic diet, if you eat some coconut oil or you take some MCT oil, you will probably have measurable ketones in your blood or urine. And that's how it's kind of a long story, but I mentioned my Alzheimer's book. There's a physician out there whose husband had Alzheimer's disease, and she discovered the power of MCTs to boost cognitive function by putting coconut oil on his oatmeal. So he was still eating his normal high carb diet, no change to his diet. All she did was give him a little coconut oil, and there was a little bit of a change. That's a whole separate thing. But the point is, even in somebody who's not on a ketogenic diet, if you consume those special fats, the coconut oil, the coconut butter, the MCT oil, you will have elevated ketones. So in a way, those are ketogenic foods, but I still stand by my primary statement, which is there's no such thing as a ketogenic food. It's your body that's ketogenic. So for people to say that you can't have red bell peppers on keto, or butternut squash, or I don't know, some other food that's low carb but higher in carbs than is typically permitted on a ketogenic regimen. And of course, it depends on what program you're following. If you're following Dr. Westman's page 4, there's no fruit. There's not even berries. Like, you can't even have strawberries and raspberries. You could have that stuff on the Atkins diet, maybe not on induction, but there's other protocols that might call for a lot more vegetables than is allowed on another plan, or some certain other foods. And so it depends on what program you're following, and it depends on your carb tolerance. And I know I'm repeating myself. I feel like I had more to say about this. I did a video about this for a company called Adapt Your Life a while back. I'm going to post a link to it because I addressed some other stuff in there that's not really worth repeating here. But if you want to get a deeper message on this, or you just like listening to me talk, you can watch that video. But skip ahead, like 4.5 minutes in, I talked about some local conferences and events that were coming up, but those are all in the past. They're done now. Don't waste your time listening to them. Fast forward 4 or 5 minutes, and then I get into this issue. But let me stop and think if I'm forgetting anything before I stop. Just the that's not keto food police. I mean, I feel like that tends to be said more by the people that are new, because they don't know. They think there are foods that are allowed or not allowed, or just, and if you are specifically following a certain doctor's program or a certain person's protocol or regimen, that's probably true. There are foods that are allowed and not allowed. That doesn't make them keto or non-keto. I sometimes surprise myself with what I can eat and be in ketosis a few hours later or the next day. What else? What else? Is there anything else I need to say about this? Not really, except I'll put in a very early little plug, drop a little seed for you, that I'm writing a book with a keto doctor about this type of topic. We actually sent our rough draft manuscript to our publisher last week, so the process has been started. We hope to have that book out by the fall. It might like actually be available for purchase by the fall, but our book is about how to find your own carbohydrate tolerance level. because you might not need 20 grams or less to be in ketosis, you know, and do you even need to be in ketosis? Not all of us do. Some people look and feel and perform perfectly well just on a lowish carb diet. So even for people to say that's not keto, who cares? Maybe you don't need to be in ketosis. That's it for now. I'm sure that I'm forgetting something important, so if I am, I'll just do another video. But the main thing is, and I've done videos on this in the past, don't let anyone food shame you or food police you. If you are specifically having a hard time, if you're doing a ketogenic diet and you're not getting to the goal you want to get to, whether it's losing body fat or, you know, putting migraines into remission, improving your blood sugar, clearing up your skin, improving PCOS, you know, like balancing out those hormones, whatever it is that has drawn you to a ketogenic diet, if you're not getting the result you want, and then you open yourself up to critique and feedback and suggestions, that's the time and place for every Tom, Dick, and Harry to chime in and say, oh, well, no, you shouldn't be eating the red pepper. You shouldn't be having the carrot. Oh, you're having 12 cups of broccoli. That's too much carbohydrate. Even though it's coming from broccoli, it's just too much total carbohydrate. Or, oh, you're overdoing the almonds, or whatever it is. That's when people have the right to give you feedback, when you've asked for it, when you've invited it. What am I doing wrong? But even for them to say that's not keto is a stupid thing to say. They could say, you're probably eating too many carbohydrates. You know, maybe those, I don't know what, the beets, you know, the beets, they're a little bit sweet. Maybe you want to lay off the beets. Or maybe, you know, maybe that keto protein bar that you're eating, you know, it says keto on it, but it's got 30 grams of total carbs, maybe only 4 grams net carb, you know, maybe you want to quit that out. So there, you know, there's an appropriate time and place for people to give you constructive criticism and helpful feedback, but unsolicited, let's just all agree to stop giving unsolicited advice. But is that me giving you unsolicited advice right now? Me telling you to stop giving? I don't know. Let's just stop food policing each other. It's none of my business what anyone eats. It's none of your business what anyone eats unless they ask you to make it your business, unless they ask me to make it my business. So with that, I will bid you farewell until next time. Stallslayer.com. Links to all that other good stuff below, the Alzheimer's antidote. And if you like my channel, if you are not bored somehow of me rambling on and on and on, do subscribe to the channel. Feel free to share these videos. I hope they're helpful, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.